This secretary abandoned her duty to testify at this committee hearing, and refusing to answer our question is unprecedented. No other secretary, even those under threat of impeachment, have just gotten up and walked out of a hearing. I understand, on good information, that the FEMA council meeting was canceled, so there was no need for her to go. She's a liar with no respect for congressional oversight. This is embarrassing display from someone who can't take the heat, is disrespectful to the committee and the Constitution, the separation of powers.
December 12, 2025. During the House Homeland Security Committee hearing, Secretary Kristi Noem was grilled by Democrat representatives for the Trump administration's controversial deportation practices since Trump 2.0 took over. From struggling to defend her department's practices to cracking down on immigration to being held accountable for deporting war veterans, and with Democrats repeatedly demanding her resignation and impeachment, the hearing was quite distressing for Noem. Amid all the heat, the committee hearing was briefly interrupted by protesters citing a quote from the movie The Exorcist. As Noem began her opening remarks to the House Homeland Security Committee, the session was interrupted by two protesters, one of whom shouted, "Stop ICE raids! The power of Christ compels you! End deportations! The power of Christ compels you!" Although Noem simply smiled during the outburst, Capitol Police swiftly removed the protester, who was holding a sign that read, "Stop ICE raids" and "Code Pink," likely referring to the anti-war organization.
I'd like to introduce them to you.
Disruptions of congressional business is a violation of law, is a criminal offense under federal law. Audience members are advised to take their seats and maintain order. The chairman may now ask Capitol Police to remove it.
A few moments later, a second protester rose and held up a poster reading, "No ICE, no troops." The person then shouted, "Get ICE off our streets! Stop terrorizing our communities!"
Arrest the persons creating the disturbance.
Get ICE off our streets! Stop terrorizing our communities! Get ICE off our streets! Stop terrorizing our communities! Get ICE off our streets! Stop terrorizing our communities!
The December 11th incident follows escalating demands from House Democrats for Noem to resign over her management of Donald Trump's nationwide immigration crackdowns. Noem left the committee hearing ahead of schedule, claiming she had to attend a meeting with the Federal Emergency Management Agency Council. However, that meeting had already been canceled.
I have to actually leave this hearing early because the FEMA Review Council is giving their report today on suggestions for changes to FEMA.
Thank you for not taking your foot off the gas on that.
I have to co-chair it, but I will be leaving soon to have to go do that. But those suggestions are Republicans and Democrats coming forward with how FEMA should go forward in the future based on the president's vision for making sure that states get the chance to manage it and that local emergency managers get the chance to go and help their communities in a much more efficient way.
Noem's office stated that it was unaware the meeting had been canceled until after the DHS chief had already left the hearing. In addition to Noem being in the hot water with the Democrats, the cancellation also cast doubt on the Trump administration's intentions to scale back FEMA's role and shift greater disaster response authority to the states. As Noem walks out of the hearing before time, protests erupt against her move and the Trump administration's deportation policies to keep the border safe.
Gentlelady, prepared.
Democrat Ranking Member Bennie Thompson accused the Homeland Security Secretary of lying to escape a tense House committee hearing. Rep. He subpoenaed her to return, alleging she abandoned her testimony and misled members by citing a FEMA council meeting that had already been canceled. He said Noem even lingered in the anteroom instead of leaving for the supposed meeting. Additionally, the hearing was not pleasant for Noem, as Thompson opened the hearing by demanding her resignation and accusing her of failing in her basic duties.
Mr. Chairman, this secretary abandoned her duty to testify at this committee hearing, and refusing to answer our question is unprecedented. No other secretary, even those under threat of impeachment, have just gotten up and walked out of a hearing when nearly half the members haven't even asked questions. On one level, you can't be surprised because she's failed to answer our letters and other requests for information. Secretary Noem did not even want to appear at all today. To add insult to injury, I'm told that when she left, she did not leave the building. She went to the anteroom. Furthermore, to ostensibly go to a FEMA council meeting for 1 o'clock. I understand, on good information, that the FEMA council meeting was canceled, so there was no need for her to go. She's a liar with no respect for congressional oversight. She joined FBI Director Kash Patel in telling the U.S. House Committee on Homeland Security to pound sand by getting up and walking out in the middle of the hearing. We were told that she'd be here until 1 o'clock, but she left significantly early. This is embarrassing display from someone who can't take the heat, is disrespectful to the committee and the Constitution, the separation of powers. But again, what else can we expect from an administration led by a man who sicked a mob on the Capitol on January 6th? Mr. Chairman, because the secretary walked out of the hearing, I move that this committee subpoena Secretary Noem back to continue her testimony.
Noem attempted to stay on the defensive during the hearing, but Democratic lawmakers accused her of lying to the American people, misleading Congress, and undermining its authority, ultimately calling for her resignation and impeachment. So much so that one of them even read the question he had prepared for Noem had she been present in the hearing.
I have some matters of interest regarding immigration and FEMA, but before that, Mr. Kent, does the Bible say anything about freedom of speech?
Not a biblical scholar.
I don't think it does, and I am concerned about singling out Muslims and specific religions to talk about how their religious dogma conflicts with our laws and constitutions. I lament that Ms. Noem has had to leave early today, but I wanted to talk about the atrocities that the DHS's immigration enforcement and the pain it is causing in places like my home district of Puerto Rico. Just a few weeks ago, we witnessed ICE shove a pregnant woman. I cannot imagine, as an expecting father myself, the anxiety that that family must have gone through when they took that person to the hospital and treated her for her injuries. Also, a few weeks ago, CBP detained Aracelis Terrero from the streets of Cabo Rojo. They put her on a plane, they sent her to Texas. She was in a detention facility. She was removed from the detainee location service, and she was not allowed to contact her attorney. Ms. Terrero was a domestic violence victim who was in Puerto Rico with a legal work permit. And I wanted to ask Ms. Noem if DHS policies allow CBP agents to detain persons who are legally in the United States. I wanted to ask Ms. Noem the legal authority behind the detention of Aracelis Terrero. I wanted to ask Ms. Noem why she was removed from the detainee location system. I wanted to ask Ms. Noem why Aracelis Terrero was not allowed to contact her attorney. Unfortunately, I predict that she would not have given us adequate answers based on the answers that she has provided to my colleagues here today. Now, I also wanted to raise a concern with Ms. Noem regarding TSA agents. In Puerto Rico, I witnessed how many TSA agents worked arduously without pay during the government shutdown, and how her announcement that they would get $10,000 as a bonus for working without pay during the pandemic actually created the opposite effect of boosting morale, because it was so selective that it excluded, apparently, most workers. And finally, I wanted to raise the concerns of red and blue mayors from Puerto Rico. I emphasize red and blue mayors, Republican and Democratic mayors, regarding her recent secret policy regarding transactions or grants for FEMA money that exceed $100,000. So to their surprise, they found out that grants and funding assignments exceeding $100,000 would now need to be approved by Secretary Noem. But there was no transparency regarding that rule. And we have no information regarding the application and the enforcement of that rule. And I sent her a letter with 15 other members asking those questions, and I got a letter in response that has no answers to these questions. And I wanted to urge her to reconsider this policy that is delaying aid and reconstruction funds for the people of Puerto Rico, which are still suffering 9 years after Hurricane Maria, and that this is affecting Republicans and Democrats, that reconstruction should not have a party ID, and that instead of fighting the bureaucracy, this has made the bureaucracy worse. But unfortunately, Secretary Noem left early, and we are left expecting these answers. Thank you, and with that, I yield back.